You are listening to the Navigating Adult ADHD podcast with your ADHD coach and expert, Zena. Hello, 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 my friend. Welcome back. We are navigating adult ADHD together, and we're doing it with an incredible guest today. Freddie and I have just finished recording, and I wanted to real quick record a little bit of an intro and tell you about him and the amazing things that he's doing and why you need to listen to this podcast, because this human, wow, like he is on a incredible mission where neurodiversity and families are concerned in helping parents and children with neurodiversity and doing incredible things. Again, fellow late diagnosed ADHDer. In this episode, right at the end, when I'm saying, hey, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing this and for the work that you're doing in the world, I got all emotional. You might hear it in my voice. I got all like choked up at the end because this is just such a powerful conversation. So let me just tell you a little bit about Freddie, who he is, what he's doing. So Freddie is the managing director of Bay Paediatrics, which is a neurodiversity clinic right here in Tauranga, right? We're neighbours, like we live very close together. And Freddie is striving to establish New Zealand as a world leader in ADHD assessment, diagnosis and support. So he's a behavioural change expert. He's spent over 15 years advising companies like Coca-Cola, Amazon, Microsoft, Virgin Atlantic, Hewlett-Packard, Heineken, and so on. And he's been advising them on developing neuro-friendly workplaces and empowering neurodivergent individuals to perform at their best. He has also spoken at the United Nations on the topic of resilience and has been featured on so many places, and I'll just shout out a few of those: the BBC, One News, 7 Sharp, Men's Health, Women's Weekly, News Talk ZB, and so on. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation with Freddie. As I said, he's a late diagnosed adult. He also has a child who has ADHD and he gets it. He has been through the struggles. And one of the things he talks about in this episode, which I really loved, was talking about the light and the dark of ADHD, right? The good and the bad. So my friends, you are in for an absolute treat. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation with Freddie. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Navigating Adult ADHD, where today we are finally, I say finally because this has been 6 months in the making, we are finally joined by the incredible Freddie Bennett. So Freddie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It has been a little time to organise this, but good things come to those who wait. And I am honoured to be here with you, and I'm really excited about this episode.
Now, I have had, over the last couple of years, before we finally met in person, I have to tell you, I've had a lot of people who have come up to me, whether I'm speaking somewhere or I'm at some ADHD event, they have come up to me and said, "You must know Freddie." And I've been like, no. Not yet. So I'm so glad finally we got to meet, and it was Christchurch, December of last year at the Christchurch ADHD conference where we finally met. I had the absolute privilege of getting to introduce you as you came on stage to give your keynote. And I have to say that was one of the most incredible keynotes I have ever seen. So I just wanted to say that. It was amazing.
Thank you.
But I do remember coming up to you, introducing myself and having a quick chat before we did that. And you told me a story about how the last time you were in Christchurch, you got locked out of your hotel room naked. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that does sound about right. Definitely. I'm glad we've brought the nakedness in within
Gone
2
straight
minutes
there.
of starting the conversation. Let's set the tone straight away. But yes, that was very much true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm hoping you're going to allude to like what happened as we go on, or maybe we'll have to fill in our listeners at the end, but we'll just leave it there for now.
Yeah,
shall
we definitely can. There is a deeper level to the story. Maybe it's like a nakedness inception. It wasn't actually the first time that I've done that.
Stop it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was the first time was in the UK, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well. But different people have different hobbies. Apparently mine is proudly go around hotel corridors naked.
So if you see a man in your hotel naked, could be Freddie, just
It
saying.
could be. But if it's not Freddie, call the police.
Yes, yes, of course. Now, you were diagnosed in your mid 30s after a
Mm.
lifetime of struggles. Can you tell us a little bit about the struggles that you had and what led you to finally getting your ADHD diagnosis? Let's dive in.
Absolutely. And there's always fun, isn't it, with asking someone with ADHD, saying, just give me the quick version of the last 30 years. But
Yeah, yeah.
I will certainly try. I mean, I I talk about this as I talk about my two lives. I have my old life and my new life. And this was very much a story of my old life. So the very fast version is kind of grew up in a very chaotic household as a child. Like my mum was my dad's third partner, lots of stepchildren, not much money, lots of chaos. And I remember growing up, I was the daydreamer. I wasn't the kid who was running around as if driven by a motor, as we say often. I wasn't the one with the Ferrari brain and the BMX brakes. I was quiet. I
Yeah.
wanted to appear normal. As I say, I
Mm,
wanted to be part of the normal people club, as I called it.
mm,
Um,
hmm.
as I grew up, I just said to myself, all I want is to be normal like everyone else. I want to have a house where people aren't packing their bags and leaving and then coming back. I want to have a job where I know I'm going to get paid a salary every fortnight or every month. I just want stability and happiness, and that's what I tried to create. And I quickly
Yeah.
realized that kind of I don't feel like any of these other kids, but if I just try and pretend like them and do what they're doing, then maybe that will be the case. So I managed to do that. I managed to be the first person in my family to go to uni. This was all in the UK. People may have guessed by now that I'm from the UK originally. It's got a really terrible Kiwi accent. So yeah, I went the first person in my family to go to uni. Went to uni in the bright lights of Manchester in the UK. So quickly found a talent for drinking and partying, and then people started to describe me in ways that might sound familiar to all of us. They were like our life and soul of the party, doesn't have an
Mm.
off switch, doesn't have a filter, all or nothing mindset. And you know what? I embraced it. I loved it. I went from this quiet, shy child who didn't quite fit in at school to all of a sudden, like, you'd walk into a bar and everyone would go, Ray, Freddie's here. And I loved it. I
Mm.
soaked up that dopamine.
Yeah.
Somehow got through uni, survived it, and then thought, right, I'm going to go and get a normal job. So again, magically, somehow got a job with a big global corporation in London. It was kind of, I look back, I just think I don't recognize that person, but
Mm.
it was very businessy and meetings and networks and spreadsheets and all this stuff. And I was at the time I was really happy because I was like, I finally achieved this goal because crazy enough to say, when we focus on a goal that we really want to achieve, we generally stop at nothing until we achieve it. So I found myself in
Yeah.
the bright lights, this kid who grew up with nothing. All of a sudden, I had like an expenses credit card, and I had an apartment, and I had money in my bank account, and I grew some success in that corporate career in London. But I always remember you kind of when you're a graduate and you have like your big, like induction training, your first day in the big shiny office. It was probably day two or day three. One of the managers, the senior managers in the business, they pulled me aside and they said, "You know what, Freddie, you're going to do really well here. You're going to have a really successful career. All you need to change," he said, as he kind of put his hand, moved his hand, waved his hand all around me. All you need to change is all of this. And what he was meaning
Oh,
was
jeez.
all I had to change was the way I acted, the way I spoke, the way I looked, the way I talked, and the way I behaved, and then everything would all be fine. And the really sad thing is, I believed him, and I took it on
Oh,
board, and I said to myself, I need to change who I am. I'm not good enough to be here. I don't deserve to be here. I'm a bit
yeah.
too kind of charismatic. I'm a bit too out there, and
Yeah.
I need to put a lid on all of that. And I believed him, and I wore this mask every single
Mm.
day to work,
Mm.
pretending to be someone that I wasn't, pretending to be boring and corporate and responsible and all these things that I think a business person should be.
Mm.
And the harsh thing was that I found some success through it. I got some promotions. I kind of jumped up a few levels, and I found myself then at 35. I had the Porsche on the driveway, the Rolex on the wrist, the granite in the kitchen. I had the ski holidays. I had the young children by that time, the
Mm.
outwardly happy family.
Mm.
I always say, if you looked at me, you would have seen a six-figure earner.
Yeah.
Underneath, I wasn't a six-figure father. I wasn't a six-figure husband. I wasn't a six-figure friend, son, anything like that. And because I was trying to mask all of my behaviors,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was pulling up the handbrake on my soul. I was dampening the lights of my spirit. And
Mm.
because I was trying to almost put a lid on all of this pressure that was building up, it was starting to
Mm.
come out sideways. So
Mm.
yeah, I was dopamine seeking is a very HR friendly way of saying it. Another way of saying it, I call it like the pack and save version of the Wolf of Wall Street. I was I was partying every night,
Yeah.
doing all the things that someone that a father in
I
their
feel
mid
like we can use our
doing.
imagination there
Yeah,
to fill in some of
definitely.
those gaps. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and it all fell apart one day,
Yeah.
kind of mental health
Oh,
issues, as many adults with ADHD know, the
yeah.
trauma and addiction and mental health
Mm.
issues and all these challenges. And there were a few warning signs along the way, like finding yourself in a hotel room naked at a work conference.
Oh.
But that time, yeah, it was at a work conference where my whole company had hired out the whole hotel. And every hotel room was filled with colleagues, and I was wandering the corridors naked without my contact lenses. So I couldn't, those shadowy figures at the end of the corridor, I didn't know if that was a cleaner or like the global CEO of my business.
Shit.
Do you talk about RSD and the shame that you wake up with the next
Yeah.
morning? I was
Oh,
like, does everyone know? Does everyone not know? And I was carrying
oh.
all of this weight and just trying to be normal and
Mm.
still be a good husband and be a good
Mm.
father and be a good employee. And that's when it all fell apart. And I went on that journey of going, yeah, I got the counseling, got the therapy. And first I was like, am I an alcoholic? Then I was like, is it trauma? Then I was like, is it depression? Is it all of these things? And
Yeah.
eventually a therapist said, you ever thought about ADHD? And I said,
Wow.
well, no, of course not, because that's just something that like American like college kids have got. They take Adderall for and just to kind of go, to do, studying through the night and everything. Um, but then I looked into it and it started to sound quite familiar. And
Mm.
I got as I say, to cut the long story short, I got the psychology diagnosis in the UK. And even then I still said, you know what? It's a label. It's fine. I'm going to carry on. And I knew I had it, but I wasn't willing to accept it and embrace it until a few years later when I was here in New Zealand, and kind of that's when the story continues.
Mm. You've talked a little bit here about the masking, right? The
Mm,
trying to appear normal, which so many of us can relate to. I'm
mm.
curious, like, how much energy did that take, and what happened when you finally stopped?
You're totally right. It was a huge amount of energy, and I
Yeah.
call it yeah, I call it the Normal People Club. I don't know where that name came from, but it's almost like there's a club of
Yeah.
all the normal people, and I really wanted because I wanted to belong, and I wanted to
Yeah.
feel
Oh, yeah.
wanted, and I wanted to feel accepted.
Mm.
And I saw this group of people who all look normal. So I'm like, right, how do I sneak in?
Mm.
How do I
Mm.
sneak into the Normal People Club? And yeah, wearing that mask of it's almost like a two-sided mask, I believe. I think one side is how do I need to be seen? And that's how do I need to kind of portray myself in terms of the way I speak, the stuff I talk about.
Mm.
So can't have too much fun, can't tell too many jokes, and like I say, try to be this very normal person.
Mm.
And I think on the inside of that mask, it's that mask of shame, which
Mm.
says who I am needs to be hidden.
Mm.
And the person that I truly am
Mm.
needs to be hidden away from the world because that person isn't accepted or that
Yeah.
person isn't wanted or that person probably deep down is that true version of me behind the mask isn't worthy of being loved.
Mm.
And because of that, I need to put that mask on and then put all this energy into being this other person. And I truly believe it's almost like doing a being on stage 24/7, this
Mm.
or kind of 18 hours a day, giving this performance every
Mm.
single day to an audience, but the audience isn't allowed to know that you're acting. And it is so draining and
Mm.
shattering. And at the same time, if it's got a narrative, and I talk about this playlist of shame which says I'm not enough,
Yeah.
because we all have this. I'm not good
Mm.
enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not confident enough, I'm not experienced enough, I'm not
Mm.
good looking enough, I'm not strict enough, I'm not lean enough. We all have these things, we all wake up every morning and the first thing we say is, oh, I didn't sleep enough. And then we
Mm.
go to bed that night, and the last thing we say to ourselves is, oh, I didn't do enough today, didn't do all those things I was supposed to do. And it's like carrying these rocks around with you,
Mm.
which other people don't have to carry, but yet we still have to go to work, have a social life, raise kids, do all the things that adults generally have to do. So yeah, absolutely draining.
Yeah. Exhausting, eh?
Mm.
I also remember, and I've had a lot of people tell me about this, how there's this kind of identity crisis when you do get diagnosed and you realize how much of your life has been spent masking, trying to be part of that
Mm.
normal club, or as I call them, the normies,
Yes.
trying to be a normie. And that's really exhausting, really draining. And you start to see that for what it is, and you start to go, well, who the hell am I then? Like, who am I
Mm.
really? I remember going, well, what do I even like to eat? Because I'd always be like, oh, I don't mind. I don't mind. We can
Mm.
go wherever. I'll eat whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
like
easy.
pizza, but I'll eat
Yeah.
pizza. Like, that's fine.
Mm.
So did you experience that? And if you did, how did you navigate that?
You're totally right. It is that kind of, it's that journey. It's almost like you're seeing yourself for the first time because
Yeah.
we we believe that we are broken, and I'll try and not go off on a tangent here, but I'm always fascinated by kind of the nature nurture aspect of ADHD, and what you're saying around the people pleasing is
Mm-hmm.
totally
Mm-hmm.
right. Because I believe that I was a people pleaser because of all the conflict that I grew up in and the chaos of my house and the
Yeah.
arguing and there was a lot of abuse happening, all kinds of abuse for everyone. And
Mm.
I wanted to keep the peace. So I was very good at saying, I'm happy if you're happy. I'll go where you
Yeah.
want. I'll do what you want because all I wanted was peace. But then I was like, hang on, because this diagnosis makes you question everything.
Mm.
Was I a people pleaser because I was trying to please my parents, or have I been a people pleaser because I wanted to be accepted by the people? And you're right, it
Mm.
it can be not yeah, it's sometimes shown to be kind of like this this is like Disney version of life when it's kind of like, oh, this is who I am, this is me, and the Greatest Showman soundtrack starts going and we all start dancing and clapping in the
Clapping.
background.
Yeah.
But rather than this is me, I think many times it's like, oh shit, this is me.
Yeah.
And there has to be a lot of self-acceptance there. And
Yeah.
I have a phrase that I use. I'm a man of many phrases. You may learn is that you cannot outperform your own self-image, and I believe that
Hang on,
the
hang on, hang
way
on. Say it again. Say it
you
again.
cannot outperform your own self-image. So I
Ooh.
I believe that the
Yeah,
at
that's
the
good.
heart of our perform when I talk about performance, I don't mean in that slightly bullshitty high performance. Yeah, let's go and be a CEO and run a marathon. I mean, it could be your performance as a parent or as a partner or as just the best version of you. You cannot outperform your own self-image. And that's why I believe when it comes to accepting and embracing who we are,
Mm.
so often we look externally for the solution. We look for the book or the coach or the podcast or the
Mm.
motivational quote on Instagram or the
Yeah.
sunrise. Really, it all comes from inside. And to break down that quote, we can't outperform our own self-image. I say this kind of, if you made $1 million, but you still saw yourself as a broke person, or if you lost 20 kilos, but you still saw yourself as an overweight person, or you find the love of your life, but you still see yourself as a single person, you will always end up
Mm.
back where you started, where you
Mm.
see yourself. And
Mm.
and that was for me. I tried all the kind of the optimization of, I'm going to do the journaling for a week, and then I'm going to buy a new notebook, and that'll all be fine. Or I'm going to do the ice baths or the meditation, and which clearly with ADHD, they were all they were all very like shiny objects. But if I didn't start to accept and embrace who I was, and importantly, if I didn't start to accept and embrace the I don't want to say the negative parts. I think as Carl Jung talks about the shadow parts of ourselves,
Mm.
the parts of ourselves that maybe we don't want the world
Yep.
to see.
Yep.
We have to embrace and accept those as well. And I
Mm.
truly believe it's what they call our edge, especially with people with ADHD. We all have this edge that makes us different and unique, and in the right situations, super powerful. But an edge can cut you as well. Like it
Yes.
can cause harm, it
Yes.
can cause damage. But people without an edge, well, they're just well-rounded, and they don't build statues for well-rounded people.
Boring.
Yeah,
I'll often
exactly. We
say a
call
little
them
bit
boring.
boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's true. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of this is embracing ourselves, and
Mm.
we talk about. I'm just firing the phrases at you now.
Go for it.
We talk about shoulding ourselves, and when you
Yeah.
should yourself, then life gets messy. And that wasn't a mispronunciation. I talk about shoulding ourselves when we say, I should be better. I
Mm-hmm.
should be different. I
Mm-hmm.
should be thinner. I should be fitter. I should be
Mm-hmm.
getting up at 5 a.m. and running a marathon. And I
Yep.
should be going to bed earlier. What if we stopped shoulding ourselves and just said, this is how I do things. This is how I do life. And maybe that's okay for me because this is how I want to live my life. And I always say, kind of, as long as no one is getting hurt, as long as everyone consents to everything, as long as no laws are being broken, I generally think that people should be allowed to live their lives. And the
Yeah.
problems I see, I'll rephrase that. The people I see who have had more challenges as they go through life, and I include myself in this massively,
Yeah.
are the people who lived a lie or lived a life that wasn't theirs.
Yeah.
Life's too short to be someone that we're not meant to be.
And
And
those are
I
the people full of the shoulds too, right? And I
yes,
speak from
definitely.
experience as well.
Mm,
Very, I should be
definitely.
further along. I should lose weight. I should get up and go for a run in the morning. I should, yeah.
Yeah.
Shitting on myself, I say,
Yeah, exactly. And I
all the
think,
time.
yeah, and all of us with
Mm,
ADHD, like we carry so much shame because
yeah.
we're so good at remembering, oh, that time when I ran through the corridor, well, I wasn't running, I was kind of hiding behind plant pots. That was God knows how many years ago the first time. Well, it must be 20 years ago. But
Mm,
I'm still replaying that in my head
yeah.
and all these things. And we look at the work we do with kids and everything around it, impulsive behaviors and lying and
Mm,
saying that thing that we shouldn't have said and definitely doing that thing that we shouldn't have said.
mm,
We all carry that shame with us. And
mm,
I think a big step to transforming ourselves into who we were always born to be is about actually accepting and embracing ourselves and saying, I don't want to be perfect. I truly believe that I am who I am because of because of the things that are maybe challenging about myself. They're just as important as the things that are labeled good about myself.
mm. I love the way you said like the light and the dark, or was it the shadow side?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, psychologist Carl Jung talks about the shadow self, and because
Mm,
we all have that part of ourself
yeah.
that we don't
Yeah.
want to show to the world. The way I heard a great way of describing it. So imagine like a beach ball, like an inflatable beach ball that you blow up,
Yep.
and you're in a swimming pool, and you've got this beach ball in front of you. On the top of the beach ball is all of the things that you want the world to see. So, I'm funny and charismatic and creative and imaginative, and I make an
Mm-hmm.
amazing flat white, and all of these things. We all have these things that we want the world to see.
Yeah.
But then underneath the beach ball, we have all the things that we about ourselves that we don't want the world to see. So
Mm.
I'm lazy, I'm disorganized, I'm selfish, I'm grumpy. I
Mm-hmm.
know if I'm eating pizza and someone says to me, "Can I have a slice?" I will look at them daggers because I hate sharing food and all of these.
Yeah.
We all have these traits about ourselves that we'd rather not kind of shine a light on. So you've got this beach ball floating, stuff we want the world to see on the top, stuff we don't want to see the world to see on the bottom. And all of that energy is being spent trying to push that beach ball down
Mm,
because you don't want that slightly darker underside to be seen. And you know
yes.
that if you're trying to like push, I'm doing this on Zoom for a podcast. You should imagine me in my swimmers. I'm trying to push this beach ball under the surface of the water and all the energy that takes, and you
Yeah, it's
try as
exhausting.
much. And then, as soon as life gives you too much, or as soon as life says, "Here, hold this," or as soon as a stress or something comes up to
Mm,
distract you, all of a sudden, whoop, I let go of the beach ball and it flies up into the air, and all that ugly underside gets exposed to the world, usually in a kind of quite explosive way.
yeah,
And I think how much easier would life be? How much less stressful, how much less energy would be used up if we just let the beach ball float along? And sometimes the good stuff is up and sometimes the bad stuff is up, but it's just floating there. And we're having a nice cocktail floating next to it, just kind of living our
yeah,
best lives. But rather than
yeah.
trying to keep that beach
Rather
ball,
than
keep
fighting
that
it,
stuff.
right? Resisting
Yeah,
it all the time. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So, one of the things I learned about you when you gave your keynote was that you've gone from this really dark place that you've talked about to doing some pretty incredible things. So, I think, is it both the Sahara Desert and in the Arctic, you ran ultra marathons?
Mm, yeah.
You also got a Guinness World Record, which you're going to have to describe because I've seen the visuals of that, but you're going to have to describe that for us.
Mm,
You've spoken at the UN. You're building
mm.
this incredible healthcare business now around neurodiversity for kids, for children. How much of those sort of achievements do you sort of attribute to your ADHD rather than being in spite of it? I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
It's a great question, and the short answer for once for an ADHD person is a lot.
Mm,
I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done if it wasn't for ADHD. Also, the
mm,
slightly darker and honest answer is I don't think I could do what I've done unless I'd been through the trauma and of my
yeah.
childhood. And it's such a cliche that kind of
Mm,
people say you swap one addiction for another in terms of all the maybe not so wholesome addictions for things like running and exercise. But I always say it was, yeah, 'cause you're totally right. I did the world's, I went from being someone who was newly diagnosed with ADHD at kind of 35. I say that was the psychological diagnosis.
hmm.
Um, I found myself stressed, depressed, unfit, overweight, addicted to quite a few different things, and I couldn't run a kilometer. So you've heard of
Wow.
couch to 5K.
Yeah.
I had to do couch to world's toughest ultra marathon, which was 300 kilometers across the Sahara Desert in 5 days.
300 kilometers across the Sahara Desert in
Yep.
5 days.
Yep.
You definitely don't do anything by halves there.
No, definitely. So I took that all or nothing mindset that
Nice.
allowed me to kind of, yeah, have 60 kilos at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday night with work the next day to running. But this is when kind of all the running types get excited and they try and talk to me about like heart rate and
Oh,
training
yeah.
zones. And I'm like, I haven't got a clue about that. For
No
me,
idea.
it was, again, I've spoken to many psychologists and psychiatrists in my time. One of them said kind of, are you running to something or are you running from something? And I was like, okay, there's probably quite a lot of truth there. But I I signed up for the Sahara Desert race, which started at all kind of I wanted to show myself what I was capable of because
Mm.
for some reason this race had always caught my imagination. Again, kind of world's toughest foot race, Sahara Desert is the kind of headline that's going to catch the attention of someone with ADHD. So I was
Hmm.
always the guy who wanted to do it, and I was like, I'll be the guy at the bar. I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to do that race. I had all the books. I did the hyper focus, read the books, listened to the podcast, watched the
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
videos, got really excited about it and then I'd keep on getting distracted by something else. And then my dad died very suddenly, which was not the best day in my life. And I kind of after a deeper downward spiral after that, I said to myself, you know, it was horrible that he died, and he didn't know he was going to die on the day that he died. And I always think there would have been a moment on that day when he would have gone like, "Oh shit, um, time's up." And
Mm.
I always wondered what were his regrets? What were all those
Yeah.
things that he didn't want, that he hadn't done, that he wants to do? And
Mm.
I looked to my own life and my own kids, and I was like, no, it's not supposed to go like this. I had all the ADHD goals and dreams and visions and all these wonderful, I could visualize it in this amazing detail, but I wasn't taking any action. And that's when I
Mm.
thought, no, I'm going to actually, for once, do what I said I was going to do. And yeah, and I ran the Sahara Desert, which was crazy because yeah, it's 300 kilometers, 5 days, which is like averages sort of six, so more than a marathon a day. You're
Oh.
carrying all of your own food and equipment on your back. So everything, food, clothes, there's no kind of stop at the hotel, have a little dip in the pool and a gin and tonic at the end of every day. You got to sleep in the dirt, get up, run 60 kilometers, sleep in the dirt, get up, run. You can't, there's no change of underwear, there's no showers, there's literally, toilet is a plastic bag that you have to hold really carefully. Because
I can
if that
imagine.
if that bag spills, there ain't no washing machine or change of clothes,
Oh.
and all sorts of things like that. So, it showed me what I was capable of. It was almost a way of proving to myself, for once, I could do the thing that I said I was going to do. Because before then, I was a big dreamer, I was a big talker, but I
Yeah.
wasn't a big doer. So I thought, hang on, so if I can actually do this thing that I said I was going to do, as I say, and it's not about the running, 'cause it was my goal. For someone else, that same goal, that life goal, may be something like writing a book or starting a
Yeah.
podcast or
Yeah.
moving to a different country or starting a business or ending a relationship. We all have this thing that we want to do, but we
Mm.
don't do it because we believe we haven't got the time or the confidence or the
Mm.
energy or the money or the support. And so I believe we can all do these things. And
Mm.
so I did that, and I was able to use that ADHD hyperfocus to get it done. I don't believe that I could have done it if it wasn't for that superpower.
Mm.
And this is partly about, as I say, embracing these slightly darker sides to us. Because I've obviously done some races since, and some crazy races like 100 miles non-stop and things like that, before I got busy with the clinic. But somebody once said, if you look at the start line of like a 100-mile race or an ultra marathon, nobody at that start line is normal, in inverted commas. Everyone has got some.
I would agree.
A lot of people are on that neurodivergent spectrum.
Yes.
A lot of people have got, yeah, trauma, addictions,
Yeah.
a history of mental illness. Yeah, kind of no one is normal, and I think this is part of that aspect of, maybe we don't want to be normal. Maybe
Mm.
instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so bad because I'm not normal," actually say, "Maybe I should be running a different race."
Mm.
Both physically and metaphorically. It
Mm.
doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're different.
Yeah. 100%. And I always say to people too, like difference is is such a wonderful thing. Difference is why we travel, because we want to explore different parts of the world, different
Mm,
cultures, different sceneries, right? Try different
mm,
foods, all of these things. I think difference is a beautiful thing.
definitely.
One of the things I do want us to talk about is the parenting dimension. So, as a
Mm,
late diagnosed ADHD adult, right, a parent
mm.
of a child, do you just have one child with ADHD or two?
Yes, I've got two boys. One of them is officially diagnosed ADHD. We take the same dose of medication. So that says more about him or me. The oldest is definitely, as he's 13 now. He's got more than a touch of autism, that's for sure. But
Right.
whether
Yeah.
he'll ever let us go down that diagnostic route, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's his own journey. But yes, so one boy officially ADHD
Yeah.
diagnosed.
I'm curious, how has that changed the way that you parent?
Um, Oh, so much. I would love to say, kind of, especially with my current job running an ADHD clinic, I'd love to say everything is calm and smooth and I have all of the insights and all of the answers. Nothing like having your kid have a meltdown in the supermarket when I'm there wearing my Bay Paediatrics t-shirt. I'm like, great, this isn't a great advert for the clinic, is it? But it has allowed me to accept and embrace it more. And
Mm.
I think with my son, and again, I hope I can give him a gift that I haven't had. Because I went, let's
Mm.
say, 35 years thinking I was broken. Uh,
Mm.
he only went 11 years thinking he was broken.
Mm.
So, and I think a lot of his journeys, now, rather than saying, Christ, why are you being so lazy? Why can't you just do your chores? I'm like, well, I know because your brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And you're not lazy, you're just hyper focused on something else. Or for
Mm.
some crazy reason, emptying the dishwasher is not firing your dopamine as the most fun thing you could do on a Saturday morning. So there is a lot more self-acceptance there. And I think it's actually brought us a lot closer together because
Yeah.
and it's a difficult thing to say because he remembers me when that was the old me. He remembers seeing his dad like hungover, passed out on the couch, and
Mm.
on a Saturday morning, he remembers seeing a very stressed, very depressed dad. He remembers seeing a dad. He was even saying the other day, like there was a time we joke about in the family when he broke the garage door. Like the garage got like a button that you press and the
Yeah,
door
yeah,
goes up and
yeah.
the door goes down. And him and his brother were fighting and messing around. And long story short, they broke the garage door. And I absolutely lost my shit, kind of so much to the extent they still talk about it years later. And I was finally able to say to him quite recently, I was like, I wasn't angry at you. I was like, you could have done without you doing that. But I was like, I wasn't able to control my emotions. And I went from 0 to 100 too quickly. And I was catastrophizing and I was doing all of these things. But it wasn't because of you being a bad child or a naughty child. Yeah, you made a mistake, but it was me who was having the struggle. And
Mm.
one thing with this came into mind quite recently with parenting and ADHD that popped up. 'Cause I always describe sometimes my house as a bit of a battleground, as a bit of a war zone. And then I realized with neurodiverse parenting, yeah, the war isn't with your child, the war is with yourself.
Yeah.
And I was saying I thought that I was like me and him were having these big conflicts, but actually I was angry at myself and I
Mm.
was not struggling so much with him. I was struggling with the person in the mirror. And the
Mm.
more I kind of learned to manage myself, the more I was able to better manage his behavior and his
Mm.
emotions, which is why I truly believe, again, it comes back to the self-image.
Mm.
I could I could read every book on parenting, and I still wouldn't be able to parent any harder. I could quote every framework, every five-step meltdown management process, but I
Mm.
know if I wasn't able to control my own mind and my own emotions and my own confidence, then none of it would be as powerful.
Mm. Mm. I agree. I read, or I think I may have actually heard you say this too, that you are on a mission to make the Bay of Plenty, where we both live here, the Silicon Valley of neurodiversity. So I am keen to hear why you started at Bay Paediatrics and what is it that you guys do, and tell us more about this mission that you're on.
Absolutely. So yes, we are Bay Paediatrics. We're a child neurodiversity clinic here in Tauranga in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. We assess, diagnose, treat, support, medicate when required. Kids with ADHD and autism, and a lot of this started on my son's journey, really. Again, with Luke, because we were like so many parents, struggling with him at school. And first,
Mm.
because I've been in New Zealand for 5 years now, first I was like, it's just he hasn't settled in yet. He's just struggling with the transition. And then it went to, but he's just spirited and that's just the way he is. Kind of he's a chip off the old block. But then, the phone calls from the school become a bit more frequent, and you realize, hang on, all the kids are having the birthday parties, and my kid's not being invited, and all of
Mm.
these things. And 'cause I know he's super smart. He's much smarter than me, but he was struggling with his learning. And then, the labeling started. He was the naughty one and the disruptive one and the lazy one. And I was like, again, this doesn't sound like my boy. And that's when I was like, okay, I think begrudgingly at the time, I was like, oh, surely it can't be ADHD. I might be a bit ADHD. I know that, but so I said, no, it's time for an assessment. Went through the public assessment system. The public healthcare system is staffed by some truly amazing doctors and psychologists and some psychiatrists who are absolutely awesome at what they do. because they are slightly handcuffed, shall we say, by maybe some bureaucracy and some funding and all the political stuff and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It meant we spent a long
Mm.
time waiting, and all that time feeling overlooked and overwhelmed and
Mm.
bad parenting and all of these things, and just waiting and waiting. Well, he was getting worse. Things were getting worse at home. It was all just turning into a nightmare. And finally, again, to cut a long story short, I got his diagnosis. Around the same time, that's when I was there saying, okay, I can't manage this myself anymore. His diagnosis process, like so many parents, kind of underlined it for me that everything they were talking about for him sounded like a recap of my life. Everything I was like, this sounds like me. This sounds like me. So I got my own medication, the proper, the full guts and glory of medication and everything. And then in my ADHD brain, I was like, surely this could be done better. Surely this could be done differently. Because I looked at my journey and Luke's journey, and I was like, this is horrible. Kind of what could I do
Mm.
to ensure that other families in New Zealand don't have to suffer like we've suffered? So I was like, well, what could I do? I could kind of maybe start a petition or maybe start an Instagram account or write some letters. Or I could start my own ADHD clinic. That's a good idea. And why not? Why not go big? All or nothing. And there's an amazing line in a movie. I think the movie is We Bought a Zoo. I think it might be
Oh
Mark.
yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen
I think
that. It's
it's
good. That's a good one.
is it Matt Damon? I think
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
and
is with
there's
his family. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah,
there's an
it's
amazing
good.
line in there, and I it's so amazing. I can't remember it word for word, but it goes something like, sometimes all you need is 30 seconds of pure insanity, 30 seconds of pure insanity, pure bravery, and it can change the course of your life.
Yes.
And that was the case. Yeah, so that family bought a zoo. I built a clinic, and Luke's mum happens to be an awesome pediatrician who specializes in ADHD, which is always helpful to have. So and she still works in the public healthcare system now. And I said to her, I'm going to do this. And she said, really? She has a look, a bit like what I say, I'm going to run through the Sahara Desert or break the world record or go to the North Pole. She'll usually cry and then say, don't be ridiculous. But she was like, do you think you can do this? And it's so funny the way you kind of, the pieces of the puzzle all make sense only when you look backwards, because all those
Yes.
corporate years when I was trying to be someone that I wasn't and suffering and all these things, I realized I've actually learned quite a lot about things like business and marketing and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. So I was like, what if I took all that stuff? Maybe it's an ADHD thing. The information was really powerful. The learning at the time was really powerful, but I wasn't in the right environment to implement it.
Mm.
But now all of a sudden, I was in this environment where I wanted to thrive because I was driven by a purpose and a mission. And sometimes they say in life, we can spend our lives looking for our purpose, but then one day your purpose finds you.
Mm.
And this was very much the case for me. Owning an ADHD clinic was never on my radar. 5 years ago, it was, yeah, 3 years ago, it wasn't on my radar. But I said,
Mm.
you know what? I'm going to do something insane and do it. And from day one, I was like, no one's going to come. It's going to be one of Freddie's kind of crazy ideas that everyone laughs about, and I'll move on to the next thing. But so we got some amazing doctors in, and we bought some amazing technology from the UK, which no other clinic has got, which helps us create this truly objective ADHD diagnosis, with none of the bias, none of the subjectiveness. Brought that into New Zealand, and from day one, parents started coming, and then they started
Mm.
coming from further afield, and then they started
Mm.
flying in from across New Zealand.
Mm.
And somewhere along the way, with yeah, a lot of late nights and a lot of tears and a lot of self-doubt, it started to work. And very soon after that, or no, I'll rephrase this. So much of what we do at Bay Paediatrics, we do because I think to myself, or all of our doctors, everyone is either neurodiverse themselves or they've got neurodiverse kids. So we've all been on this journey. We ask ourselves, what would we have needed 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Would we have needed a book? Would we have needed a podcast? Would we have needed a workshop on sleep? Would we have needed
Mm.
something to help us with get the kids off bloody YouTube? And then we think of what would we need, and then we make it. We take all of their expertise and we distill it down. And I bring, because I always say I am not a doctor. Probably your listeners will have gathered that by now. I am not the medical expert, but I'm the boy with ADHD who has a boy with ADHD. So I think we've all sometimes sat in a medical room and felt a bit confused and a bit talked down to and a
Oh,
bit overwhelmed.
yeah.
And clearly, none of those people work at Bay Paediatrics, but we take all of this medical expertise. We were the only clinic in New Zealand that was invited to present our work to the ADHD World Summit in Prague, which is like the ADHD
Wow.
United Nations, with all kind of
Yeah.
properly the professors and the
Yeah.
sort of senior psychiatrists. Only clinic in New Zealand, our doctors were invited to present our work, and but we take all that expertise, and then I kind of say, yeah, but how would we use this if it's 11 o'clock at night and your child's telling you that they hate you, and all you want to do is sit on the sofa and drink a bottle of wine and cry? How can we take your expertise and kind
Mm.
of make it real like that? And that's why. Because we know to talk about your question earlier, well, once you get that diagnosis, people think and parents think, we think it's the end of the journey.
Hmm.
It's like having a child, and you get the 9 months of pregnancy, and everything's focused on the birth. It's all focused on that big day. And then the birth happens, or the rebirth, as I call it, kind of when you get the diagnosis. Big day happens. Then you get home, sit on the couch, and say, right, now what the hell do we do? Shit.
Now
So
what?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Now
very
what?
relatable.
And that's why we have this thing called epic families, and epic families stands for extraordinary parents, incredible children. And we we have podcasts, we have big events. We ran one of the biggest events for neurodiverse families in New Zealand, which is coming back on August 16th to Tauranga, to Bay
Excellent.
Court Theatre. And I know there are many other amazing events and are informative that happen across New Zealand and Australia. Um, I had an idea around let's invite kids to our one, which which makes the whole thing 10 times harder. But we also know that many parents with neurodiverse kids can't get childcare, and I didn't want them to miss out. One thing we say is no family gets left behind. I don't mind whether someone has an assessment with us, a diagnosis with us. Maybe they've never walked through the door. Maybe they've never heard of us. I don't mind. I just want to give people the tools and the knowledge so their families can thrive. And that's why we do so much, I'd say, with the resources and the events and the podcast, because I truly, truly believe, and it's an Abraham Maslow quote that says, what one can be, one must be. And so many kids and so many adults with ADHD are being less than they can be because they don't have the confidence or the skills or the tools or the
Mm,
permission to be who they were always meant to be. And it kills me. It
mm,
really, really kills me, because that was me as well. And maybe I think, to be honest, it still is me. I'm still being less than I could be. And I'm in relentless pursuit of my potential, and I believe that everyone can be the same. And if we can give people the tools, the knowledge, the habits, the confidence to do that, then that's how we do it. And I've just realised the question that you asked about 20 minutes ago about the Silicon Valley, the Bay of Plenty. That is my vision.
mm,
We're here in the Bay of Plenty. I want the Bay of Plenty to become the Silicon Valley of neurodiversity, and that's bigger than Bay Paediatrics. I want the research, the investment, the talent, the facilities to serve every family here in the Bay of Plenty the best in the country. So then the rest of New Zealand looks at us and says, "Wow, how are they doing it?" That's
mm,
we want to learn from them. So if rising tide will float all boats. So if we can do this in the Bay of Plenty, then the rest of New Zealand, we can
mm.
support the whole rest of the country. Are you listening, politicians? My email is open. And then if we can have this for New Zealand, and then we can change the world. And kind of you hear these surveys, and it's almost it's stuff like kids in Finland are the happiest kids in the world, and everyone look,
Yeah.
how's Finland
Yes,
doing
yes.
things? Or
How are
like
they doing it?
kids in South Korea, they're the
Mm.
best mathematicians in the world. So everyone says like, oh, how's South Korea doing it? I want everyone in the world to be like New Zealand, they're the best in the world at supporting neurodiverse kids. How are they doing it? And I
Mm.
truly believe we can do that, and it won't happen
Mm.
overnight, but
Mm.
it
I believe
truly
you
is my
will.
mission. And
Mm.
thank you. And I say
Mm.
that that's I think we all have a part to play there. And let's face it, if you look back over the last 5 or so years, it'd be nice to have a good news healthcare story coming out of New Zealand. But I
Yes.
truly believe and it takes it does take political willpower, and it does take perseverance, and it does take all of these things which in 2026 feel like they are in short supply. But that's why I call it the neurodiversity revolution, because a revolution
Mm.
happens when a group of people stand up and they say, I'm not going to take this shit anymore. A revolution happens when a group of people say, we deserve better. And a revolution happens when a group of people say, no longer will we tolerate being overlooked, overwhelmed, or ignored. This is our time to shine, and this is our moment to rise up in a very polite way. This is our time to rise up and say, it's time to do things differently and do things better. And I believe that's our opportunity, and I believe that's what we can achieve if we all
Mm.
work together to create a brighter future for these kids.
Mm. Oh, yes.
So
Freddie,
went on a rant there,
one,
sorry.
oh, I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. One last question I want to ask you. You talked about that moment, when you get handed the diagnosis and you go home and you're sitting on the sofa and you're like, shit, now what?
Mm.
If you could give one piece of advice or information to that person, what would you say?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of something that isn't so much of a cliche, and I think it can feel overwhelming. I think it can feel
Mm, yeah.
truly overwhelming, and again, it does sound a bit of a cliche, but I think it is about kindness and self-acceptance. And
Mm,
this is very much a journey of embracing your own uniqueness, and that journey can last a lifetime, because so many of us, I believe, we've spent our lives up until that diagnosis feeling like we were standing on the outside of life. So this is the moment when you can realize you were doing that actually because you're simply outstanding. And this is your moment to, I believe it's all about leaning in to who you are,
mm,
and not hiding away from that. Yeah, people talk to us ADHDers about things like burnout and balance and being reasonable and lowering our expectations and all of these things. And sorry to swear, but I'm like bullshit. Like, what? Maybe it's time to be more unreasonable. Statues were not built for reasonable people. Did people tell Shakespeare to be more reasonable? Did people tell Leonardo to lower his expectations? Did people tell Mother Teresa to maybe just help a few less people? Did people tell any of the world's greatest thinkers, creators, entrepreneurs, inventors, saints and helpers? I'm sure people did tell all of these people to set their sights a little lower, to be a little more reasonable, and to be a bit more balanced. And thank goodness they ignored all of them.
mm,
So I think there's obviously we do have to look after ourselves and be healthy and take care of ourselves. But I think
but
so
full
much,
permission to be
yeah,
unreasonable.
yeah,
I
exactly.
quite
Full
like that. I
permission to
wrote it
be
down.
unreasonable. Exactly. I think, I
Yeah.
say there is an element of, the caveat of self-care and everything
Mm,
else. But um, yeah, I truly believe that our lives are the result of what we are prepared to tolerate. And to capture the point that you made earlier, so many of us are tolerating less than we deserve because we're trying to
mm,
please people.
mm,
You spent your life, person who has just got the diagnosis, you spent your life trying to please other people by being someone that you weren't meant to be. Now it's time to please yourself, because it's
mm,
never too late to become who you were always meant to be.
mm, mm. Right there, mic drop. That's it.
Boom.
You've already told us a little bit about Bay Paediatrics. You've mentioned a podcast. Where can people find you if they want to come looking and work with you? And I highly encourage them to do that, especially the people out there with young children, families with neurodiverse kids. Please do.
Definitely. So all things Bay Pediatrics, like I say, I back our, it's not an ADHD way of saying it. I back ourselves. Yeah, we are, we are New Zealand's number one ADHD and autism clinic. We're award winning, as I say, we're the only clinic and invited to things like the ADHD World Congress and World Summit. So yeah, baypediatrics.com for all your assessments. As I say, we do the assessments, we do the medication all on the same day, all in-house, all of that good stuff. One thing for families as well, yeah, we are a private clinic, and I'm not going to pretend that we're not, but I know that as a parent, sometimes you're not there saying, my child is displaying ADHD symptoms, therefore I'm going to go and get an ADHD assessment. Generally, as a parent, you're just saying, shit, it feels like life is falling apart. I think I
Mm.
need help, but I don't know what to do. Anyone who sends an application to Bay Pediatrics, we send out all the forms to complete. But every single child, our medical team will review that information for free, and we will recommend the treatment pathway. So
Wow. Okay.
effectively, if because we know for kids, parents are saying it's ADHD, maybe it's actually really bad sleep because those symptoms are very similar. Maybe it's dyslexia, maybe it's
Mm.
autism.
Mm.
So we will never allow any family to invest time and money in an assessment unless our experts have like given them the green light and approved it.
Yeah.
So all of that what we call pre-screening happens for every child for free.
Wow.
So parents only go down that assessment
Mm.
pathway once we've said, we've gathered the information, we've looked, we recommend ADHD assessment or autism, or maybe we just recommend, maybe we say sometimes go and get some therapy. Maybe that's enough. Listen to
Mm.
some podcasts. Maybe that's enough. Because an
Mm.
ADHD diagnosis, as we all know, stays with that person for the rest of their life. So
Mm.
nothing is more important than getting it right and getting it right first time.
Mm.
But yeah, baypediatrics.com for everything assessment. And also on there, we've got like our podcast, we've got free books, we've got all sort events, all sorts of things on
Awesome.
there. The Freddie Bennett stuff, in terms of my journey, we're all on a journey. I am at the Freddie Bennett across mainly across Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn, I think as well.
Yeah.
But it will not be a surprise that I struggle on LinkedIn. Um,
Me too.
I don't go, I'm thrilled that I've got this new promotion to head of the coffees for the paid pediatric doctors. Yeah,
Yeah. I
a
feel
bit
like
too
I don't
rebellious for
speak
LinkedIn.
the language over there. I just don't speak that
No,
language. That's how
I
I
know.
feel.
I read it and I'm like, surely, like everyone knows this is bullshit. Yeah, we all know this is bullshit. But I am on LinkedIn, so yeah, at the Freddie Bennett for all
Excellent.
my kind of my journeys. I will say as well, there has been the trilogy. So there was the desert, then the North Pole. I am going to cap off the trilogy next year with the Amazon jungle.
Oh, stop it. I loved the Amazon.
Yeah,
Wow, what a wicked place.
the same again,
Oh,
300 kilometers, 5 days, carrying
wow.
everything and my Venom pump on my back. Yeah, so running the Amazon because
Oh, I'll be eyeballing your Instagram account for
oh,
updates.
definitely. It's going to be, 'cause I'm the kind of guy like mosquitoes really love me.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if I'm there, like, they're all
you
like
taste good.
just something.
Yeah.
I taste, apparently the Mozzies say I taste good. So, but
Oh, good
I
luck.
do all this not for the running or that kind of thing. I do it, it's good for my mental health, which I need to keep an eye
Yeah.
on. But secondly, um, everyone tells kids that ADHD is a superpower. And I know, as because I've been a child with ADHD and I have a child with ADHD, when it feels like life is falling apart, having someone pop up and say, "Oh, it's a superpower," really pisses me off. So
Yeah.
everyone tells kids that ADHD is a superpower. I always want to be the one that shows them what truly is possible.
Mm,
So yeah, and once again, I'm
mm.
a bit older now than I was when I ran the Sahara. But yeah, we're going to give it one more bash and run the Amazon next year, which is coming around way too fast.
That's awesome. I will link to all of your social media accounts, all the places people can come and find you and hang out in the show notes. And lastly, I just want to say thank you, Freddie, not only for coming on the podcast. I am so glad that we finally got to do this. I was very excited to have you on, but thank you for the work that you are doing as well, because
Thank you.
it's so needed. So thank you.
Thank you. Sometimes it feels like a big mountain to climb, but I believe all of us we can all climb it together, and we can reach this ADHD summit. That's for sure.
Hey friend, if you want some more help navigating and thriving with ADHD and some help applying everything that you're learning here on the podcast, then head over to our website, navigatingadultadhd.com.